Namaste. Welcome to the podcast. We are discussing the topic of sexual and reproductive health and rights for the people with disabilities. My name is Lasta Maharjan and my sign name is Lasta. Today we are talking about a significant topic, promoting inclusive access to contraception. I have Ghan Bahadur Thapa with me, whose sign name is Ghan. He has been actively involved in the advocacy and rights movement for people with disabilities, particularly in the area of sexual and reproductive health and rights. It's a pleasure to welcome him to the program.
Thank you. I am pleased to be able to share my experiences and thoughts. Regarding contraception, it is fundamentally a human right, not just related to health, but to have the freedom to make choices according to one's wishes. The right to choose contraception and to talk about reproduction and childbirth should be freely available to persons with disabilities. It is important that persons with disabilities also have the right to make these decisions independently. This is not something that should be restricted. Deaf people, for example, also have the right to make decisions freely about contraception, pregnancy, and reproductive matters.
Exactly. Now, let's begin. Can you share experiences of the challenges people with disabilities face in accessing contraception in Nepal? And of course, wait, don't forget that the deaf community has specific needs too.
Thank you for the question. In my opinion, Nepal faces many challenges regarding contraception and family planning. A major issue is the communication barrier for deaf people and persons with disabilities. The deaf community lacks awareness, interpreter services, and accessible information on contraception methods and their duration. Moreover, the education system does not provide adequate sexual education in schools, leaving deaf people and persons with disabilities without proper knowledge of reproductive health. The main challenge remains the lack of effective communication.
Oh, I understand. You're familiar with these experiences as well. What you mentioned is definitely true, and many people are affected by these issues. If you are comfortable, would you like to share more of your personal experiences or any incident related to this topic? Feel free to share any stories or examples from your own experience.
Yes, of course, I would like to share my experience as well. When I went to the hospital with my wife for the first time and we were asking about contraception, the people there were thinking, can a deaf person even understand this? Even when I wrote down my questions, they thought it would be difficult for me to communicate. There was no interpreter available and I felt that it was going to be a complicated situation. I was worried about the possibility of misunderstandings. And in the end, when I wrote down my question, they told me, "Who is at your house? Bring them with you." They asked if it was my father or mother who could come with me. I felt frustrated because I was not being understood. I asked why, and they explained that they could not understand sign language and that I would not be able to communicate effectively. I told them I can write to communicate with you, but the doctor replied, No, it could be dangerous for you to misunderstand. Bring your parents or relatives instead. They suggested that I should bring someone who understands sign language and I agreed and went home. At home, but instead of support, my family started to criticize me. They questioned why I was asking about contraception, saying that it would be difficult in the future if I did not understand everything clearly. The main issue was the lack of education and for deaf people the lack of access to interpreters. It was difficult for me to communicate because no one was available to help. Despite this, I made an effort to understand, and eventually, with the help of someone who could communicate with me in sign language, I was able to understand and discuss the issue. In the end, the problem was resolved and I was able to share my thoughts. It was a difficult situation, but through collaboration, the issue was addressed and I was able to understand and experience it more clearly.
Wow, I like your thoughts. You mentioned the difficulties deaf people face, especially in Ghan Bahadur's life, dealing with communication barriers and the lack of interpreter. But so what about government policies and regulation on this issue? In your opinion, are the existing policies and regulation adequate to ensure proper access?
Thank you. Specifically when it comes to the main responsibility, those who are in positions to create policies are not fully inclusive during the policy making process. We too are not involved in that process. When policies are being made, there is a lack of awareness. Another issue is the laws themselves, as they are not effectively implemented for persons with disabilities. Also, the Nepalese government has not invested much in this sector. Disability inclusion needs to be prioritized, but who will make that investment? They talk about providing interpreters, but the question is, who will pay them? The government needs to focus on investing in policies, laws, and regulations for the inclusion of persons with disabilities. Everything would be fine if that investment is made, but without it, we continue to face challenges, and that's I wanted to emphasize.
Yes, everything is fine. However, in this matter, people often forget the importance of respect and consideration. So, how can we find solution to these issues? That's the question we should focus on now.
Thank you for asking. There are issues across the country, especially for deaf people and persons with disabilities who remain highly marginalized. The government has shown little interest in addressing these concerns. No specific policies, services, or accommodations have been provided. The main issue is communication. We must advocate for sign language interpreters in hospitals and health centers to ensure accessible health care. Additionally, peer education on sexual and reproductive health and rights (SRHR), including the work of YPEERAP Nepal, is crucial. Schools need to provide deaf-friendly education that encourages open discussions without fear or secrecy. Without proper SRHR education, deaf individuals struggle to access accurate information and support. The government must invest in inclusive policies and quality education. Many assume persons with disabilities don't need sexual education. But this is a harmful misconception. Everyone deserves equal access to knowledge. Solving communication barriers, especially the lack of interpreters, is key. If addressed, change will happen gradually. Making an inclusive future possible, we must continue advocating for these rights.
Great, you have shared valuable insight. We hear similar stories from people in Nepal who have seen your long involvement and success in these programs. If you have any examples, please share them.
In this program, I am participating as a model example. There are many disability-related organizations, and including YPEERAP is one of them, and regarding sexual and reproductive health, covering topics like conception, contraception, and awareness are all part of it. For the deaf, I have learned a lot about teaching empowerment and how to support them in this area. YPEERAP conducts various peer educator training sessions from time to time and organizes experience sharing programs. Furthermore, we can be engaged in this and bring about meaningful change.
Your experience is indeed valuable when it comes to persons with disabilities, especially those with severe disabilities, and discussion about contraceptives. What is the necessity of this? How can this be changed today itself to make them understand the topic better today itself?
For sign language and bilingual education, creating videos, education materials, and ICT resources in sign language would be helpful. Hospitals should provide bilingual facilities and inclusive materials. It's essential to include persons with disabilities in these efforts. Many publications and podcasts exclude them, which makes them non-inclusive. Creating an inclusive environment would bring benefits. Quality education in schools will prevent future issues. When discussing contraception, education alone is not enough. Assistive resources are needed too. Though assistive resources exist, more research is required. Currently, there is no disability-friendly approach and resources are limited. If they were available, real change would happen.
Yes, this point is very important. There have been many situations regarding contraceptives, but change seems possible if accessibility is ensured in inclusive programs.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Many inclusive programs have allowed people to advocate and speak out. They are now being heard about inclusivity. With these opportunities, change is possible in the future. We are getting access, and that's truly great. Positive change is definitely possible moving forward.
Yes, you shared your thoughts and important matters very well. Thank you for that. I was also completely amazed after listening to you.
And I am also very happy to be a part of this program. Thank you for that. I got the opportunity to share my experiences, answer the questions you asked, share my thoughts, and exchange knowledge. I took it positively that others will also learn and gain information from what we have discussed. Thank you for that.
Yes, this is absolutely right. Thank you very much for sharing such important matters. What is important now is to plan how we can move forward in a better way in the future. For that, we are at the final stage of the program. Thank you for watching. We will meet again soon in the next podcast. Thank you. Now with Ghan Bahadur, we will discuss the questions we have. It's a yes or no question. We will play a game. Ghan Bahadur, I would like to ask you a question. For young people, especially outside, what is the possibility of teaching topics like sexual and reproductive health, contraception and family planning? Is this necessary for young people?
Yes, because currently persons with disabilities find it difficult to communicate, but if they are taught, it will be easier for them. The necessary facilities will make it easier for them and they will benefit from it. When such provisions are made, they will be able to access those resources, and that's why this is important.
And in the next question regarding young people outside, when it comes to contraceptions, accessibility and assistive resources, can they use these resources?
No, because until now, persons with disabilities outside have not been provided with such assistive resources in an accessible form. Even if outside people could access them, they haven't been able to. There are various problems, and now people outside are patiently waiting.
Sign of applause. Now, as our guest, we have Ghan Bahadur ji. Here is a small token of love from this podcast. Thank you.